All right. So, hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this final session of the year. Look, it is now what we have like 48 hours left before the year ends. And for many of you, you are probably in a reflective mode. Probably you're thinking about, okay, how do you want to set yourself for 2025? There's a lot to consider, a lot to think about. And so, this session, I do this once a year. And it's something that I really find is very, very essential to all of us. I think we all know the importance of kicking off the year, new me, new year mentality in January. But a lot of the work that you need to do to prepare yourself for the next year starts today, right? Starts before we cross that mark of getting into the new year. And so I want to share with you some strategies, some ideas, some reflection points, lessons of not only what I go through internally, both with my partner, my husband, my family, my business teams, but also internally, privately, to really reflect and prepare myself in a way that really positions me for not only success, but growth, acceleration, and happiness and fulfillment. Because it's not only about success, it's also about how do you grow to be the best version of yourself, right? And I will tell you, out of all the sessions that I do on an annual basis, I love going live and sharing knowledge and expertise and really giving value to my community. And these planning sessions have been very, very popular throughout this year. It kicked off with my January main planning session workshop, to get people ready for the year and look at kind of into my strategies on how to really plan out your year and really workshop through that. If you want access to the 2025 edition of the planning blueprint, where it's pretty much my journal calendar of what I use to guide my activities for the year, just comment calendar and our team will share you the link and information for you to be able to purchase that calendar link, because it's really, really structured and have a lot of great content and structure to help you plan your year effectively. But also, mid-year planning session was a very popular one where we talked about how to reset your year mid-year through, and then of course the fall planning session was really good because of course, for a lot of people, the year didn't go as expected, but still looking at the last couple months that was available to you and really leveraging the last quarter of the year, that was a very popular session. So these planning sessions, I've seen huge excitement and huge energy in response to them, because we all collectively know that there's a lot of things that we hold value in our hearts in society, but the one currency that we can never recreate or duplicate or restructure is time. Time is probably the most valuable asset, and how you leverage your time, how you project manage yourself is really all about discipline and strategy. And so sharing thought leadership on discipline and strategy when it comes to time management and goal setting is something that I know many of you seek to have. I do think it's a skill set that many of you probably take for granted. But for me personally, as a mother and a wife and a serial entrepreneur building multiple businesses, time management and goal setting is so crucial in order to me to have not only a balance and successful portfolio of businesses and endeavors that really matter to my career goals, but also to not be overwhelmed. A lot of people really experience burnout and frustration and depletion this year. I mean, 2024 brought a lot of curveballs, let's be honest. A lot of people, even if you had a good year, it wasn't probably the best year in terms of really replicating success the way you're used to, right? And so time management is going to be your friend as a skill set for life, especially in a society where you're constantly being pulled from different directions in terms of focus. Being able to learn how to really manage your time effectively is my gift to you, of reminding you of all the skill sets you should capitalize on in 2025 and beyond, is the discipline of your time management. Okay. So, with that said, bringing it back to focus for today's session, as someone who speaks also on global stages on entrepreneurship, technology, personal branding, and leadership, I will tell you some of the things that I've learned is that many of you, if you're looking at how to really position yourself for success, not just in January and burn out by February, but look at your long term goals, I will tell you planning does not begin with just looking at this year and then preparing for the following year. Planning begins with you looking at this year, but looking at the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years. Look at your entire lifespan. I will tell you by the end of the session how I look at my entire lifespan and plan my way backwards to get to where I need to go. And it's something that is a complete mindset shift. It completely is not what people talk about when it comes to these goal setting workshops. I know a lot of people bombard your emails and social media. Goal setting workshop, planning workshop is such a common thing that a lot of influencers and organizers and entrepreneurs do for their community. But I will tell you, I used to do the same thing where I used to plan by reviewing strictly the year I'm looking at, which is in this case 2024, and plan for the next year. Ever since I started looking at my entire life and working my way backwards, it's completely changed not only my trajectory of success, but completely made me more happier, more fulfilled because I'm looking at the length of my life, not in a terms of speed, but in terms of real milestone growth. So it's not based on time, it's based on who I am as a person and how am I growing through the years of my evolution and seeing how to really execute effectively. So for those of you who feel like, look, you didn't hit some of your goals that you had planned January of this year and you want to get back on track, this session is going to be beyond a revision and a top lessons and a planning session for next year. It's really hopefully going to give you a completely different mindset shift of things to really look at personally in your life, but also strategically amongst your relationships to really position yourself for success. And that's my hope for each and every one of you. It's done wonders for me, and I hope that it could serve you well as well today. So, formally, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Christina Tim. Is this your first time connecting with me on the internet? Hello and welcome to my world. I am so happy to connect with you. I am a serial entrepreneur, personal brand influencer, and a tech ecosystem leader who have built several businesses in my portfolio to scale in the tech space and the entrepreneurship and innovation space. I have spoken at countless events from TEDx to World Economic Forum to Davos to United Nations. I have spoken at so many global stages around the world on my leadership in these areas. And I'm so blessed to say that I've been able to have a very, very fulfilled career spanning many multiple countries while also not sacrificing my value points of being a happy and committed wife, mother for and someone who's able to do things that I truly love to do in my community and in my spirit time as a hobby. So I do feel like we need to have complete balanced lifestyles. And that's something that I've been a huge proponent of for the past couple of years, because I know a lot of people are trying to really navigate how to balance career success and really finding the boundaries around really leveraging your time to serve the goals that you want to serve for you and your betterment. All right. So that's a little bit about me and my background and what I've done. Now, today we're going to have the end year 2024 review and planning session. So, a lot to cover in the next 25 minutes. I'll try to be brief, but just to reflect a little bit on the last two sessions I had during the mid year session review, I candidly just, address, the economic downturn that we're facing and how, despite what the mainstream media is saying about the economic status that we have, people are now starting to feel like this is a very tough time. And I was very clear and candid the fact that it's not just going to end next year, it's going to be a multiple year thing that we're going to feel this. Talked about AI fatigue, how we're all overwhelmed by the bombardment of fake and non-human content that's flooding the internet, and how that's also a position of opportunity for you because people are really craving human connection and human touch, and what that will mean to position you in any of your endeavors into next year. We talked about transitional leadership, how to really lead in a way that is authentic and uniquely different. Obviously talked about the shift in ecosystem support, how many of us are feeling disconnected to our communities and how our communities are not really pulling their weight to support. A lot of people have said that they feel lonely, that they feel like they can't really capitalize or tap into the communities that they are in. And what does that look like when the ecosystem is falling apart? Talked about content, talked about the knowledge economy, talked about the importance of your personal brand, and what it means to really build a social contract with society. So you can find the link. I'll put it in the comments, the link to the full mid-year session review, because even though that was targeted for the middle of this year, some of the things I addressed is very timeless and things that's really going to be very fruitful for many of you into even the next couple of years in terms of the trends I was addressing in that session. And during the last session, For the fall review, we talked about some of the things that you really need to consider doing, especially for my entrepreneurs on the call, about how to reduce your tech stack and subscriptions to not overwhelm yourself. On average, a lot of entrepreneurs have over 40 different tech stacks that they're leveraging, or technologies or tools that they're using for the businesses. And many of them are not optimized to above like 50% in terms of usage or like leverage. All right. How to really restructure your team, how to really declutter your spaces, how to really think about how to really structure your time management skills, how to really double down on researching new opportunities and following up with that. We talked a lot about all the different strategies to consider. And again, I could post a link, comment fall, if you want the link to that video as well, where I commented on specifically on the strategies you need to take on to really position yourself for success into the new year as well. Okay. Now, when I look at the end of the year, when it comes to review and planning, I look at what has gone well, what do I need to reflect on? And traditionally, I think everyone knows that this is an important step to take to really position yourself. So I challenge you guys to take a white piece of paper, excuse me, and jot down some notes based on some of the questions I'm going to ask you in this review process, in terms of like how I do it internally and how you can adopt it in terms of your reflecting um, position right now on the session with me today. So part one to my revision process really starts with, okay, let's have a reflection list. And this is where I don't really go deep into analysis. I'm just in free thought, free flow. I usually start this by myself, and then I do it with my husband, my partner in crime, and then I have it with the rest of my team across all our portfolio companies. But I always do this. It's probably so important to do this individually and then do it with your partner, because they are your other half in terms of like helping you execute in your day to day. And literally, I do a brain dump of all the top good things that has happened in the year, because a lot of us dwell, and our minds are wired this way, dwell on all the negative things that's happened, but we forget all the good things that happen, even the small things. Like maybe you started to eat better, maybe you start to visit your family, maybe you start to read a book. Like even the micro decisions that you made this year that you are proud of, you should document them, right? And then I don't call them failures, but top lessons that occurred in the year, right? So maybe I tried something that just bombed completely. What did I learn from that? And then really discuss those learnings both internally or with a friend or a partner that you trust, to really have a conversation like, which part of the list had more items? Did you have more good things happen, or do you have more lessons? And why is that? Where's the imbalance? Or are you focusing on more of the good things? Are you discrediting some of the lessons that you did? It's like really have a full brain dump on all the things that you know that you need to reflect on and really need to identify with the year that has occurred. Okay. Second is what I call a revision list. And this is something that I love to do, because now I go back to that my goals that I've written down in January 1st. What did I write in my black book? Because you guys know I have a black book. Even though I use technology, I love writing things down. And what were my top goals for the year, and were they met? And this is really important, because a lot of times people postpone their goals each and every year. They set them and reset them, set them and reset them, and set them and reset them every year. If you be honest, if you have that person that's on this call and you've done it before, where you set and reset your goals every single year because you have not fulfilled them, comment reset. And I will tell you, in my personal brand accelerator, I talk in depth about the challenge of really looking at strategic goals that not only that you can accomplish, that matter so much to you that you know that you don't want to put it off, right? Some of us are creating goals that we're not really passionate about, that we're not really dedicated to. And as a result, it's kind of like a wish list and not really a true passionate goal list. So I want you to remove the mindset of creating a wish list, things that you really hope that you could get done for the year, and really tackle the 2 or 3 goals that look that you, if you didn't do it last year, but into next year, that like, look, this is important. So for some of you, if it's buying a house, it's buying a house. For some of you, if it's hitting 7 figures in your business, it's hitting 7 figures in your business. If some of you, if it's like creating boundaries with certain relationships, then you got to do it. Like you got to write down the goals that may not be the most necessary goals for you, but are the most crucial goals for your heart and your fulfillment. And you will find the level of energy and drive you have towards accomplishing those goals, because they're really dear to your heart, and really important to you, you start to really align yourself to that. So that revision list, go back and see what you did. And then I have a reset list, which is like the top reasons that could have done things better and the opportunity gaps I have to capitalize on. Because a lot of times, as you're going through the motion of life, you may have your goal set here, but as you're executing on them, you learn different ways or different gaps that you had that you didn't even know. So, for example, perfect example of this for me, like I really doubled down on my personal brand content this year. A lot of you guys know I run multiple companies, including GSD, which is a global organization. And this year, you probably saw a lot more of me going live on LinkedIn, on social media. And a lot of people love this. And I know in the beginning of the year, I sent an email newsletter and said, like, hey, I want to show up for my community in a more mentorship coaching capacity where I want to show up daily through social, weekly through my webinars, monthly through my boot camps, and quarterly through my signature programs. And I actually fulfilled that this year, and I'm very proud of that. So I had that as a goal to do that from day one of the year, right? And so for many of you, when you think about those guys, as I was doing this, I realized like, wow, as I was going through it, I had to really be conscious about my portfolio companies because I was showing up a lot more under my intention with my personal brand than with my portfolio businesses. And so I like literally midway through January, I had to do a lot of shifts with my team, adjustments, and I got into flow by February. I will tell you that. But this is a perfect example of what goals did you start to accomplish and what gaps or opportunities do you see that you have to kind of move around to make sure that you are on track and not depleting yourself in other areas of your life or in your business. And so that's a perfect example of adjustment in real time that many of you, as you're setting these goals, until you start executing on them, sometimes you don't know how it's going to affect the other things in your life, whether it's socially, emotionally, or physical or unphysical. And these are the things to think about. So that's a perfect example of that I learned this year. Now, part two, and this is probably by far my favorite part because the part one is really on a reflective mode where you're thinking in the past. Part two is really about thinking about the core thing that matters to me in terms of my identity. And I divide this in three ways: world, wellness, and wealth. World is because I'm a global person. I live and travel multiple countries a year. But that has caused me to really look at not just the context of trends within my industry, within my country, within my community, but also I look at it in a global way, right? So the fact that this year there were 64 global political elections around the world. And that is a huge thing because to have so many political transitions in one year, which means the next 4 years is going to be huge in terms of economic prosperity, in terms of social adjustments, society adjustments. That is huge, right? And so political context is really big. Cultural shifts, like what's happening with pop culture, Afro beats movement. How does that affect me as an African American and a diaspora, right? Migration adjustments. I'm seeing a huge flock of people from America moving to Ghana and Africa. I'm seeing a lot of Americans are leveraging remote workers, right? There's so much migration in talent and time. Like, how does that affect my business and my worldview, right? Or what's happening? Because these are trends and shifts that you got to be aware of that's going to affect how you were able to execute in your plans for the year. So I looked at what world trends was I observing in 2024 and what's going to continue to stay on trend into next year. Wellness is huge for me. I always look at like, did I have a balanced structure with my family, friends, and relationships? And did I improve my health? This year, I know in the health space, I was really, really big on drinking tea and smoothies, vegetables and fruit smoothies that I wasn't consistent with. I'll be honest, and I wasn't happy about that. How do I balance that? As far as family, I spent a lot of time with, really coordinating with family, really trying to create new time frames with friends. And this is an area of my life that I'm like, wow, like as you get older, being a mother and wife, you get really focused on your nuclear family and really providing because you're raising kids, you're raising children and identities from the ground up. And how does that affect your external relationships? So really reconnecting in that way. And then wealth is really my business, income, and finance goals. Did I reach them this year? And how did I reach them? So for me, I shared this in a previous webinar. You could go back on my personal brand accelerator. In the personal brand accelerator, I talk about the fact that when it comes to how I build wealth, I always look at my personal brand goals first in terms of like my portfolio of brands under my personal brand, and then look at my business portfolio across the 4 companies. Because what I've learned is my personal brand is always going to be the connecting thread throughout my whole life. But businesses come and go. Some businesses last anywhere between 5 to 10 years, depending on how you want to exit the company, right? Initiatives could last year on year, but your personal brand is going to be with you throughout your life. And so I always look at, okay, what are the outcomes of my personal goals, and how do that affect all the different endeavors I was doing for the year? So this year I had new partnership deals, I had new speaking engagements, I had new investment opportunities come my way. How did that really reconnect and really position me for greatness into the new year? I always look at that. But one thing that I will say I want to double down on with you guys is this 3-part analysis of the world, wellness, and wealth. What I will tell you is that a lot of people focus on the wealth part, where how much money did you make, your finance goals. A lot of people take for granted that a lot of times why you are not able to accomplish your wealth goals is simply because your wellness is out of whack, and you're not really observing the trends in the world that's affecting your execution, right? You want to get so strategic with your goals that no matter what's happening in the world, you are ready, but you got to be aware of what's happening, right? And so I talk about trends that's happening in industry and market globally all the time. I'm not an economist, I'm not a political strategist. However, I am a student of history and student of time and student of relationships, as we all are in our own capacity. You don't have to be right all the time, but you should take a stab at this. If this one thing that I hope that you take into next year, always jot down 3 trends that you personally can observe in your industry, in your community, in your world that you are noticing that's giving you pause or giving you excitement, and write it down. Because that worldview, whether it's subconscious or whether it's unconscious or conscious, is affecting how you are executing. I cannot stress that enough, that if you feel like the economy is bad, it will affect your ability to invest in certain courses or invest in certain programs to accelerate your growth, right? Because unconsciously, you already have this worldview that the economy is bad. So you're looking at it in a certain way, so you don't do certain actions. Whereas someone like me, I'm like, oh, the economy is really bad. That's great. That's when most of the millionaires are usually made. So you see how the context, we can each have a worldview and an understanding of what's happening, but it's what we do with that information that gets us in a position of success. So some of you need to really think about, okay, what's my worldview and how is it affecting my execution patterns right now? And how do I adjust? Same thing with wellness. Do not compromise boundaries and wellness. That's all I will say about that one, because I think too many people sacrifice their wellness and happiness and did not get great outcomes from doing that. Don't be that person. If you want to spend more time with family, I don't care if the house is burning down, spend time with your family. Because if you got other things, and for those of you, 2024 was a tough year, if things are falling apart, if you know that you're not compromising your values, you can move forward psychologically. But when you're compromising your values and you still don't have things going right in the areas that you want them to go right, you're going to cry. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be burned out. And you're going to be pissed off with everyone around you, because you know that you sacrificed the wrong thing to get outcomes that you did not receive. So on the wellness front, I want to stress this a lot. Please, if you said that you need more time with family, then create a boundary around that and don't violate. If you need to prioritize your relationships with your partner, significant other, go on those dates and make it happen. If you know that your health is compromised and you need to do better with your walking 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes a week, do not compromise it, do it. Because I will tell you, wellness is one of those things that when you are well in your mind, body, and spirit, I am telling you, the world could come crashing down. You still feel ready to conquer it. I'm going to repeat this again. When you are strategically clear about not violating your values around wellness, the world could be burning down around you, but you are still strategically clear and happy and fulfilled that you could get through it, right? Because the thing is about wealth in the world is always changing. It's always a constant. And wealth, if you know there are people in the world who have built wealth, you could do it too. I always tell people there's nothing on this planet that no one can achieve. Honestly, even an idiot can become wealthy. But wellness is a gift. Prioritizing your health, prioritizing your loved ones, prioritizing the things that make you who you are, your hobbies, your talents. Those things, they're the small things that make you exist in a way that makes you fulfilled. That when you violate it, it creates such a deep sadness inside that I will tell you, you're not even going to be excited to hustle and grind and go for the goals that you want because that one's already compromised. And I'm saying this from experience because I have not so much compromised my values, but I know there were years in my life where I lacked in wellness, where as a mother, I drove myself too much, or my first couple years as an entrepreneur, I did too much working till past midnight on business projects that I just never needed to do. And I was so pissed off because I wasn't hitting the mark. But because I've violated so many boundaries in terms of my time and my commitment, it felt like it was meaningless. I remember last year during my sabbatical, I lost out on a major six-figure contract. But during that time, I needed a sabbatical because I just came off of maternity leave and I know I needed more time to really be a little bit more secluded to find myself. I got into farming last year. By the way, the best thing that ever happened to me, I got into farming. So I started a chicken farm, started farming crops. I harvested, watermelons, cassava, yams, tomato, okra, pawpaw. Like, guys, like that year when I lost that six-figure client, right? It's because I was doubling down on this period of time of having sabbatical. Guys, when I tell you it was sad to accept that I lost that six-figure client, I was so happy. Like, I was just so happy looking at my chickens hatch, seeing them grow, seeing my seeds and my tomatoes, harvesting tomatoes for the first time. Like the joy is still feeling inside. I can begin to describe to you that I just knew that I will be okay. I'll find that six-figure client again. I will get another one. By the way, I did end up getting double the six figures of that contract. It went from 120K to 248K. Same client the following year. But what I learned from that was like, wow, like had I compromised my values on having that time and break that I needed to go and do this, which by the way is a priority. It's money flow, it's capital opportunity, is wealth, is access. But I was so happy. And by the way, when you are very, very disciplined with your values and your wellness, and you have these crosswords where those values need to be compromised or someone's testing them and you still make the right choice for you, the level of confidence you have in your capacity goes to the freaking roof. So going back to what I told you, because I learned that with that time period, there's so many clients that I turned down this year that I'm like, I will be okay. Because I gained a new level of confidence and faith and grace. Some of you are not operating on faith because you are chasing so many different things that even when you're losing, you're not learning, right? It's okay to lose and learn because the winnings is going to be so much in abundance that you'll look back and recognize, like, wow, I'm so glad I made that decision. I want you guys to show up in 2025 and be proud of your decisions, even if it's not profitable decisions, but it's purposeful, fulfilling decisions. I need you guys, can we comment purpose? If you want to make purposeful, fulfilling decisions, because everything else will come organically when you do that. Okay. So just want to share that with you, that revision process for me every single year, I always look back like, yo, did I compromise anything? Did I stick to my guns about certain things? Did I cancel opportunities that I feel like wasn't a right fit? You got to keep doing that because right now your mental health is so important that you not so much not try hard. I still think you should try hard and go for what you want. I think there's a lot of laziness going out there and being framed as mental wellness. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is create your boundaries, create your values, create your code of existence, and follow it to a T no matter what. It will help you in the long run. Okay. So, with that said, and looking at the year, right? Some of the lessons that I learned from this year in doing this and planning and revising. When we went through our revision list and went through our buckets, by the way, we had a lot more good things than bad things. And it's funny, it actually was a tough year for us too. I think everyone got hit with a curveball. But it's funny, if we didn't go through the revision list, I would have lost track of some of the great things that happened this year that I was so grateful for. So that's why I say that revision list is such a great brained up, of no judgment zone for you to really analyze your year without putting structure to it. So some of the lessons that I learned, and this is huge, people relationships. You got to really build a culture code for your interactions with people going forward. Okay. People have lost their minds. I'm going to say it again. People have lost their minds in 2024, and I don't think it's going to get any better. I don't think people are going to find it in 2025. So, what I mean by this is that I learned that because we're going through so many transitions in society right now, society no longer has a cultural code of existence, right? Some of people are calling this progressive, some people are calling it something different. But the point is that society has shifted, right? Society truly has shifted. All right. So, with that said, what is happening right now is you got to create a culture code for how you want to operate, right? So that way you don't lose yourself in a world of insanity. So, what do I mean by this? So, I personally, I'm very old school. Okay. So, I still believe that you should not call someone past 8 p.m. We call them ungodly hours, right? Unless it's your family, friend, like really close friend with this like a built relationship. But as far as client calls or a working relationship, like don't call me past that time. So I will tell you right now, people operate on 24/7. People have no boundaries when it comes to their phone numbers, who they give it to, how they go about it. My staff even knows this. You call me past 8 p.m., you're not going to get a response till a godly hour the next day, right? So, what do I mean by that? I create a culture code of how I want to operate in this world. I actually have a 10 code law. Like my husband and I, we actually created one for our family. And I also have a personal one because we're two different personalities. We have a set of values for our family, how we want to operate in the world. I also have a personal one for myself, right? And where I came up with this is like, look, how do I want to operate with my relationships? And this is really crazy. Just creating boundaries and creating a culture code for how I want to interact, right? That has helped me immensely because I'll give you a perfect example. Another culture code I have is like, I do not respond to any request that's built on a foundational guilt. Let me repeat that again. I do not respond to any requests that's built on a foundational guilt. What does that mean? So let's say someone wants to work with me. This happens a lot actually. I go to an event, and you guys know I pour in a lot of energy into my speaking engagements, training programs. Like I don't just share strategies; I share real vulnerable advice, real open and advice. Like I've always been known to give more than expected. That's something that's always been a part of my character and part of my journey. That's something you could go through on my video lives. You'll see like, wow, I didn't really see this way. She's given a lot, right? Because I love sharing knowledge and expertise, right? And so I've had moments where the event is done and someone will walk up to me like they always do and ask me for a number. And I just say, like, look, you can reach out to me via my email, right? And I'll give them my direct email, not like my staff email, my direct email. And I had one person say, like, oh, do you think I'm just not important? Like, why don't you want me to give your phone? I'm like, I do not give my phone number out to just anyone. It's just how I do things. And she was so pissed off. She was just like, look, I want to be able to reach you. I'm like, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I don't give out my phone number. Pissed off, bombasting me on social media. I didn't care, by the way. And she met me at a second event. And this time she saw that at the end of the event, obviously a crowd of people came to me at the end of the event. She saw that, by the way, I had the same response, but other people were asking for my phone number. So she realized it wasn't personal. But then she came back to me again. She's like, yo, you're still not giving your number out. And I'm like, no, I don't. This is my value. I don't owe you explanation. Like, look, I get that you don't owe me an explanation, but I'm just curious. Has something happened in the past that caused you not to do that? I'm like, no, it's just I have real boundaries around who should be able to access me 24/7. And unfortunately, if you're not a family or very close friend, I don't think you need access to my phone number. And for those who I do give my phone number with, it's because I have some type of extended relationship. You can work towards that. Maybe we could get to know each other via email, calls, live interactions. But I still live under the mindset that I will love to have people that I know on my phone list. People that I don't know could come through my email inbox. That's fine because I could block them if need be, if they're crazy, right? But as far as my phone, I like to know who's calling me on my phone. And she was really taken aback by that because she didn't realize that it was actually a personal decision that I've made a long time ago. And I have that boundary, right? So, with that said, because she tried to guilt me into it, by the way, I decided not to work with her in any capacity because for me, if you're trying to guilt me into action, what that tells me about you is that one, you don't know how to articulate your value as to why we should have a valuable exchange. And second, why should I be sad or angry or dragged into working with you? That's when you don't have a good self awareness for yourself, right? You don't have a really good way of really position yourself in a way that is positive. That you have to guilt trip people into working with you. What does that say about you and your character, right? And I don't like to work with people like that. And so for me, I do have a general rule: anyone who guilts me into action, I won't be working with them. So these are examples of people relationships and boundaries that I've created that I think many of you should learn how to do because people. And by the way, there was a statistic I forgot the stat. You might not want to hear this, but people are becoming more selfish right now and becoming more narcissistic. I'm going to say it again. More and more people, and comment truth if you are noticing the same thing that I'm telling you. But people are becoming way more narcissistic, partly because too many people are on social media 24/7, watching and comparing themselves to people's highlight reel. I actually don't spend a lot of time on social media, by the way. I actually don't spend a lot of time watching other people's stuff because even me with my discipline, I recognize I'm a human being and I could fall into the trap of getting caught up in things I shouldn't get caught up in. And so I just want to share with you guys that people have become more narcissistic, more unkind, more selfish, more self-centered, and more aggressive and entitled. And more frustrated. And so because of that combination, people are not coming to you with grace, respect, and positivity. As a result, you got to really navigate your people relationships into 2024. And I realized me adopting that culture code helps me make fast decisions with interaction because you're going to have scenarios where people are going to come to you throughout the year. So for me, because I host a lot of events, right? I, by the way, interact with thousands of people on an annual basis because of the events that I host, but also because of the events that I speak out on an annual basis. So I am constantly dealing with people boundary testings all the time. Some of you have more or less, but because I have a code of how, like a rule, a value system of how to deal with it, I'm able to make split decisions very, very quickly, depending on the interactions. And I've seen patterns. And I will tell you, because I'm meeting a lot of people, the way that people are heading, we're going to need a real societal reset with how people are thinking and dealing with each other right now. And it's really, really sad. Okay. So people relationships, big lesson, create a culture code. The second thing is profit opportunity. So this is a huge one. I've seen so many people get overwhelmed by applying multiple crazy strategies because we are in an era of the influencer economy where it's true that to get strategically where you need to go, you need more mentorship, right? You need guidance. I have coached a lot of people this year, and I recognize the importance of mentorship. I want to go back to this idea, and this is a Ghanaian term, Sankofa, which is really what it translates to is that go back and get what's yours, or go back and get what you forgot. A lot of you are going to find that the best way to actually find financial success and career growth and spiritual growth into next year is to really go back and get what's yours. A lot of you are trying way too many new things and you're not operating in your zone of genius. You're operating in a zone of deficit because you're trying to learn to fill in the gaps, okay, that you think you are missing. I challenge you to go back and try to capitalize on the things that you are already innately good at. Maybe you have to operate and look at it from a new perspective, but this is talking about you leveraging your organic talents and skills and not just your learned skills. Because I learned, for example, how to do financial modeling, right? Fine. But I organically know how to teach and lead online. So what did I capitalize on this year? I did a lot of lives this year. You could tell I could do this without a PowerPoint. I could do this on lives. Like, I love showing up on video and giving back, right? And by the way, it has helped me hit six figures just in one of my business lines just by going live this year. And I realized, like, wait, I used to do webinars and small workshops kind of sporadically over the years. But when I doubled down on what I forgotten that I was good at, I doubled down on that this year. And I not only saw, guys, I not only saw immense financial growth. I don't want to get emotional, but I realized that I was working too hard, doing things that I didn't need to do. And I got to show up this year, by the way, very imperfect, right? I was very raw and open and honest with my lives, my boot camps, my webinars. And I felt good. I felt really good about it, right? Because it's the concept of Sankofa. I went back to get what's mine, right? And show up in a way that I knew that I neatly had to do. I didn't have the perfect systems around it. Obviously, I got better and better with my lives. But what I learned is like, wow, what else am I really good at that I'm not capitalized on? So, by the way, I went back, seen my review my old speaker contracts, and realized like, wow, out of all my signature talks, because there was a dip in my speaking bookings, I realized that my Entrepreneurship Without Borders talk, I'm giving you a perfect live example, guys, was one that I always got crazy bookings on in my business as an entrepreneur, getting booked for speaking engagements. So I went back to universities with that leadership talk and I got booked through the roof. Guys, I was booked out through the year because of this. Why? Because I went back to get what's mine. So I want to welcome you and invite you to really look back on things that used to work for you because it was tapping into your innate gifts and go back and double down on it. Okay. Last lesson of the year. And guys, this is a huge one, purposeful mentorship. By the way, I have invested thousands of dollars this year and thousands of hours. Okay. Well, hundreds of hours actually, but thousands of dollars into really good coaches and mentors. I think we are in a state of mind where information overload is so real that you need real guided advice and mentorship to guide you through the next stage of your evolution. That is just the facts. This is the reason why you're seeing such a huge boost in the coaching industry. All of you could be coaches to someone that needs your advice, but every person is at different levels. So I invested in that. And you will need to align yourself with mentors who not only know how to execute on the goals that you want to accomplish, but truly understand the challenges that you are facing so they can give you the right bridge to success. So today this year I piloted my Speaker Career Accelerator program. And I remember a lot of people who signed up for that program told me they signed up for the program because I innately understood the challenges that they were facing that they wanted to overcome. Not just because the fact that they see me speaking on global stages, they could tell I get booked all the time, that I understand the industry from both sides. They said, no, no, no. All that we knew was great. But we go always find someone else who has a great profile with all the bells and whistles. You specifically, I chose to work with you because you understood the challenges I was facing. And that was very enlightening. Because funny enough, I did the same thing. The coaches I invested in this year, I identified them not just because of all their accolades or achievements, because when they talked and went live on camera or shared content leadership, they uniquely understood the challenges I was facing and the barriers I was trying to break. Right. And by the way, at each stage of your business, each stage of your career, you're going to need to break new barriers. If you're growing, it's important. Right. There was a time I needed to break six figures and I broke it. There was a time I needed to break seven figures and I broke it. So right now I'm trying to get the 8-figure mark. Right. So I invested in coaches to show me how to hit 8 figures. Right. So these are things that as you're going through new growth milestones, you need the right mentorships. Because also, by the way, we as a society, we talk about this. I think it's now a mainstream term, which is annoying me, but everyone's talking about the trust recession that's happening right now. People got major trust issues right now because a lot of people invested in programs and content that did not fulfill the promise that they were going to fulfill. Right. So you need to find coaches who don't just want to teach you just through a course and leave it there, who are literally invested in what they're teaching. So I give you a perfect example. every one of my courses always has a post follow-up conversation, whether it's live monthly calls, whether it's a one-on-one coach session. Every single one of my courses, and I have 2 signature programs, by the way, has a follow-up post session, because I know that once you go back to old habits, you're going to face new challenges, and I want to be there for you. That's not because I needed to. You already paid the price. I could just move on. But because I'm emotionally invested, not only in making sure that you succeed, but I love the work that I do, and I love the people that I'm supporting, and I want to emotionally invest in that, right? So my style is very different in the fact that I make sure anyone who comes into my course to do that. Second thing, even my shorter workshops, right? So I have my signature program, they each have post falls. Even my shorter workshops, guys, if any of you are clients of mine, please comment and tell the truth, because you guys could speak better for me than anything else, right? Even my smaller workshops, I will show up and say, like, hey, following up, did you do the course? I'm going to do a live Q&A and feedback session with you next week. So one of my courses that I did that was the paid workshop, where people were able to, there was a bundle that I did where people could be able to get 3 courses in one for my small and mini courses. They bought it. They got on-demand access. That's great. And they didn't expect me to do a calendar invite like, hey, guys, I want to make sure you do this course. Do it, finish it. And next week, I'm going to go live. I want to talk to you and see how you're doing, what challenges you face. They did not expect that, right? I love doing that because I get to hear from you what you need, and I'm able to pour back into you, right? So going back to this conversation on mentorship, right? You need to find mentors who not only truly understand your challenges, but one who could provide practical solutions and don't feel like once I'm done with you, I'm done with you, right? That they really are invested in the programs that they're putting out there, which is why I don't have multiple programs, right? So that way I can show up, because I'm still an entrepreneur who still wants to scale and still want to be effective and still want to be proactive. But you can scale effectively with grace, clarity, and kindness to your people, right? So those are things that I wanted to share with you in terms of lessons out. In this conversation on mentorship, again, I will stress, do not invest in anyone who does not have some methodology of teaching, so you can see how they teach and how they engage. I did multiple live boot camps this year, and I will tell you, not only have they been really fun, some of them were stressful, but they were really, really fun. Because again, I got to show up and build a rapport with my audience, build a rapport with my community, be able to show not only do I know what I'm talking about, but also that I am the right mentor or coach that someone could work with. And again, I recognize the elephant in the room that people have trust issues with people in the market. So this is kind of like an introduction to not only how I teach, but how I engage, right? And so a lot of people, I remember one person was like, oh, are you just doing these boot camps just to make money and give us an offer at the end? Yes. I'm not going to apologize for monetizing my thought leadership and monetizing my expertise. Are you crazy? Go sit down somewhere. Of course, at the end of every boot camp, I'm going to invite you to want to work with me further. And yes, it will require a financial investment. That's a good thing, because I just spent a couple of days showing you not only my thought leadership, my style, but giving you an opportunity to know, like, yeah, I want to work with her. She might get me from point A to point B faster. That's called monetizing my expertise. So going back to you guys selecting mentors, select mentors who are proud to share that. Because I saw so many people did did not do any live, did not teach any value, and charging thousands, just like, oh, I like put their accolades on a website and say, like, yo, I know what I'm talking about. No, you got to get to know people more, right? So for me, yes, I did several lives this year. I loved them. And a lot of people met me on the internet through these live boot camps, by the way, right? So I would say for those of you who are scared to show up live next year, I highly recommend that you start to do live trainings to get people to know you in your ecosystem and in your industry, to build trust, to build credibility, and to build authority in your industry. Because I will tell you, I've gotten multiple engagements and opportunities from these lives, things that I didn't expect to happen. And so I'm inviting you guys to do the same. Okay. right? Do that. Do go live in video. And in my personal brand accelerator program, I teach you how to go live and monetize live expertise, because it's not only a lucrative thing to do, but for me, what I love most about it is that it really helps build credibility, authority, in the marketplace, right? There's only so much you could say over the course of an hour before someone's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, right? And so very important. And then doubling down on how can someone work with you further. So for me, I had 2 signature programs this year. That is it. I didn't have 10 different courses, 20 different programs, 2 signature course. And both of them is all centered around personal branding. Personal branding around how to be a thought leader as a speaker and get paid to speak through my speaker accelerator program, and personal branding accelerator program, which helps you monetize and create multiple products under your personal brand within 6 months or less, and start hitting pretty much the goal for this one is how to hit a 6-figure plus brand, personal brand within 6 months or less. Okay. That one's an extremely popular one. If you want access to any of these programs, just comment access, and my team will be able to send you more information on that in the comments for sure. Okay. So these are the things that I've done. So now, in thinking about closing this out with planning, Ray share with you how we revise the lessons learned, how do I apply those lessons in my life. Here are some of the things that I know that some of the strategies we're going to implement. And by the way, I have a full planning workshop that will happen in January. This is mainly the review and reset session for today. 3 things I want to bring to focus for you guys. One is you're going to have to reset your work week culture for sure. Okay. Because so many people are overwhelmed, so much is happening in the market, so many random fires you need to put out because of the things that's happening in the economy, things that's happening. And I've seen so many CEOs and entrepreneurs and corporate professionals burn out this year because of the random errands and obligations that they have to deal with. So I will say that you're going to have to reset your work week structure where you dedicate a day or half a day or an hour to managing life curveballs because they will come, and then one day to create space to find new opportunities to explore. I think you need to literally plan out vision days where you're looking at your future, where you want to go, and exploring how that looks like and being excited for it. Okay. So you do need to reset your work week structure to fit for that. So a lot of people know my work week structure. Mondays and Fridays, I don't usually do live sessions or programming, right? I usually stick to internal stuff. This is a unique one because tomorrow is New Year's Eve, so obviously I'm not going to go live. But today was a unique one. It's the last business day of the year, really. So I'm live today, but usually I don't do that. Mondays and Fridays are dedicated to flex time, vision goals, and errands. Okay, I really do the bulk of my business activities Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So even my clients know I do my live sessions on those time frames as well, right? That has helped me tremendously on, first off, being very optimized with my time, but also leaving room during the week to deal with the things that I know I don't want to deal with but need to deal with, but also leave room in my week to get excited about things that I want to do, which is visualize my future and plan for it. Okay. Second is going back to focus. A lot of you need to really focus on what's your one annual goal, break it down to 4 micro goals, and have a tracker. But I will stress that a lot of you guys need to be a little bit more patient and start putting some of your goals into the parking lot. I've seen so many people overwhelm themselves with putting too many goals on one plate and not accomplish anything because they're trying to accomplish everything. I have gotten better at just looking at my long-term goals and stretching it out. And it's funny, the more I stretch it out and be more patient about my vision for my entire life and not just for the entire year, I've been actually being able to accomplish a lot more goals because I've looked at the map looking backwards and did it in a way that made me more optimized with my time and my efforts. So I highly recommend that you do that. And last but not least, plan backwards. Oh my God. This has been the most strategic mindset shift that has helped me so much in my time in planning goals. Planning backwards and not just planning forwards. Every guru on the internet will tell you review the year previous, look and forecast for the year next. That's about it. I'm planning for 50 years in advance. I'm planning when my kids will graduate from school, when I will be retiring, what I will do when I will be retiring, what my grandkids will be doing. Like I'm literally planning out 50 years and beyond. When I talk about backwards, I'll give you a perfect example. Instead of just planning out my business goals for um, 2025, I look at what's the size of the portfolio I want to have in the next 10 to 20 years? 100 million. How do I want to accomplish that 100 million in 20 by 2030, by the way? How do I want to accomplish that portfolio goal of 100 million? Do I want to do it with one company or do I want to do it with multiple companies? So let's say I want to do it with 5 companies, 20 million each across the board. So one company is going to have a strong corporate facing element where I'm getting only 6-figure contracts to make that goal. Another one has to have economies of scale, maybe coaching my coaching services and doing a framework so that way I can have teams to scale that out. Another one will probably be like me just focusing on acquisitions while I sell it, right? These are things that I'm strategically looking at, working my way backwards. Okay, my goal is to have a portfolio of $100 million across 5 different companies. Then what happens is innately, I gotta look, okay, in the year 2030, if this is the goal, then how many people do I need to have? And who do I need to have to be able to hit 100 million across all my different portfolio companies? So what happens is like now I start to look at my employee growth and HR and staff recruitment process a little bit differently because I'm not looking at who do I need for next year or next 3 to 5 years. I'm looking at long term. What are the right people that I need to hit 100 million over the next decade? Right? This is the type of thing that when you look backwards too, another thing that happens is like I'm not focused on incremental growth. I'm not saying that I hit 1.2 million this year and next year let's try to double it and get 2.5. No, I'm looking from 100 million backwards. So now 100 million backwards, maybe the year prior to that is going to be 50 million and 20 million, 30 million. So now I'm looking at from a backwards perspective, I'm thinking exponentially 2.5 million seems really small now because I'm looking at it backwards. I'm thinking like, no, I have to hit 8 figures minimum next year. I have to hit 10 million and above in order for this to work out, for me to hit that 100 million goal because I'm working backwards. Do you see the difference? Your goals are not exponential. And now because my goals are higher, I'm not creating goals that don't make sense. I'm also looking at the frameworks and the structure and the systems I need to put in place to make that a reality because I'm moving backwards. Okay. Again, if you join my anyone who's a client of my 2025 edition of the Personal Brand Accelerator program is going to get access to this 2-hour training where I show you how I do this planning strategy. It's actually a really phenomenal, unique way to plan and monetize your time in a completely different way. Okay. So plan backwards so you can have exponential growth. Okay. In your career, in your business, in your wealth, in your choices. All right. So, with that said, that's all I have for you guys today. We still got 2 minutes to spare. If there are any questions on the comment, please share them right now. I can answer them before we log off. But essentially, this session was meant to really give you guys an overview of how I reflect on the year, how I look at the opportunities that's coming up into 2025, and how to actually really think strategically about one, what worked, what didn't. Two, how do I think with an exponential mindset and not an incremental mindset? Because a lot of the planning structures that we've been taught is very incremental in nature. They're not structured in a way for you to think 10, 15. I mean, people are just looking year on year. People are not looking 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Like I mapped out where I want my kids to be when they turn 18, right? There's so many things that you can look at from an exponential perspective when you look at it from a long-term view. And third, I wanted to show you guys also my mindset around how I look at the world and how it affects my strategy and my execution. Because a lot of times I find that when people are planning, I see a lot of people hold back on certain activities based on market shifts. So we can't put the date out for this until the election comes, or we can't do this until this happened. Don't ever make your plans based on another objective. Move forward with it, but write out obviously the mid case, worst case, and best case scenario. But you got to operate with the mentality that you will move forward with the plan, but you have contingencies in place to make sure that you do the plan well, right? And so I welcome you to, first off, end the year with grace and power and tenacity. I'm so excited for you guys. For those of you who felt like, hey, this was not the best year, look, you grew a lot. You're still standing. There's so much more to come. Leverage this year as the springboard that you needed to pull back, to analyze where you are, and to spring forward to where you need to go. A lot of times, the hardest years are followed with the best series of years because you learn lessons so innately that you do not want to repeat them again. So I welcome you to a year of abundance. I hope 2025 will be a breakthrough, powerful year for you. I welcome you to really step into your greatness into the new year. I want to give you guys real powerful abundance, light, and energy as you close out 2024. You are here and you are still thriving. You made it through another year. God bless. Right. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side of 2025 as you continue down your path to greatness. Let's go get them. Bye, guys.